Hello everyone, welcome to Advanced Machine Learning course. In today's lecture, we'll be looking at latent variable models. We'll be looking at a specific latent variable model known as mixture models. This is the outline of today's lecture. We'll be looking at an introduction to latent variable models, how and where the latent variable models can be used. Then we'll have discussion on a specific latent variable model known as mixture models. We'll be exploring more about Gaussian mixture models and how we can use this type of mixture models. We'll be looking at two different usages of mixture models. Our next topic will be parameter estimation. As you all know, estimating the parameters of a model is by optimizing the likelihood or posterior. We will see what are the issues in case of mixture models for direct optimization, and as a solution to these issues we'll be discussing about an algorithm, the expectation maximization algorithm. We'll discuss about expectation maximization operation, then how EM can be applied on mixture models, and maybe the comparison of the k-means algorithm and EM. Actually, EM expectation maximization will be delivered as another lecture. Latent variable models internally assumes that there are some latent or hidden variables, and these hidden variables are going to control our visible variables. Let's say in our model we have a visible variable x. So looking at that sample, you will be able to say the properties of that variable. Let's go back and look at a probability distribution. Before actually looking at a hidden variable, we will go back and look at a visible probability distribution which is parameterized by theta. So a probability distribution parameter with parameter theta. For example, in case of a Gaussian distribution, this theta corresponds to a mu and a sigma. So you can generate samples with probability of x given theta, x given corresponding mu and sigma. Let's have a look at our sample notebook. This Python notebook will be shared with you. So you see here we use NumPy package, then Matplotlib for plotting anything. Then we use normal distribution here from scipy.stats norm. Here we are going to generate 1000 samples from a normal distribution of parameters mu and sigma. This mu and this sigma. Mu is equal to 0 and sigma is equal to 0.08. This you can generate with a very simple command which is imported from scipy.stats norm mu comma sigma number of random variables equal to 1. So you create one random variable, you append with single, create the second variable and append with single and so on. So you run this, you will get this histogram. You just have a look at what is there in B, sorry not in B, single. Single will be having thousand values like this. These are the values that are available in. So mu is 0, so there will be negative values and positive values as well. So you plot a histogram of the data. So this is how you generate 1000 samples from a normal distribution. So here there is no hidden variable, no variable that is going to control, no hidden variable that is going to control our what do you mean the visible variable. Here we have only one visible variable and that variable is being controlled by these two parameters. Going back to our slide, so this is what we know. We know that you can generate samples such that if you know this conditional probability. Now we can look at this in, in two steps as a two-step generative process. You consider one distribution which generates a hidden variable or a latent variable. Then you use another distribution which generates the observation or this visible value given this hidden variable, given this random variable in the sense given this hidden variable. So this hidden variable is going to control our visible variable. So that is what we mean by latent variable models. There are many situations in which we require such a model. Let's see an example. Let's see a magazine example. Assume that you are an editor to a magazine and you are going to create a new issue of your magazine. And let's assume that you have so many sub editors and they are going to provide, they will be providing you some number of articles. So you have a whole bunch of articles with you. Now you need to pick some of the articles and create a new issue. That's it. So the normal way by which you can think it of is like this. You consider or you assume that the editor has access to such a probability distribution. Editor has access to a probability distribution P of X. X is a random variable that denotes an article. So what is the probability that this article will get selected? So correspondingly, some of the articles will get selected. So that is a direct model, sample from P of X for an article. So sample from P of X given some parameter. So that is the direct way of doing it, direct model. Now let's say you use a latent variable model. The latent variable model assumes that there are some topics also. So each of your sub editors are going to give what is known as articles for a particular topic. Let's say you have topics like sports, then technology, then health, three sub-editors. Then the first person has submitted some 10 articles about sports, and second person has 5 articles from technology and 2 articles about health. Then, based on the content of or based on the property of your magazine, you have to sample a topic, and by using that topic, you can pick article from topic wise distribution. So it is something like you sample from a distribution P of Z, where Z is your latent variable, and then you pick an article from topic wise P of X given Z. So it will be uh, or this hidden variable is going to control your visible variable. Only these values will be available, or only x1, x2, etc. These articles will be available in the magazine. There will not be this value, but actually this is being controlled by the latent variable z. So there are situations where we will have to use such a model. It's not just making it things complicated, but there are situations where, for example, if the magazine editor was using only a direct model, then he has, for example, in the case of 10 sports articles, 5 technology articles, and 2 uh, health article, and each of these articles will be having the same probability. Let's say each of these articles are having same probability. Then any for a new issue, some articles will be selected. That's it. But for example, if you are using a latent variable model and we say that this hidden variable has got some specific property, based on that we can control the type of articles that will be coming into this magazine. For example, yeah, let's say we have 4 topics: politics, sports, health, and technology. And this is the distribution of these topics. Let's say your magazine is basically a sports magazine, then 60 percentage of the maximum is sports, and 10 or 20 is health, and 10 etc. So first we'll sample a value using your control variable, or what you call the latent variable. So once you obtain the latent variable, for example, you take a sample from this, you get this value sports. Then you take this one, probability of x given z equal to 2. You take one article from here, you sample this again you will get sports. You sample one more here, you sample one more from this, you get a topic health, you sample one. So once you look at your issue of the new magazine, then it may be following this particular what you call a distribution. So the distribution of Z will be followed in the output. So that is what we actually require. So this is your hidden variable, and these are the distributions corresponding to each of the values of what you call the hidden variable. That is probability of x given z equal to 1, x given z equal to 2, and so on. Each of these are going to control, or are the probability distributions given this value. So once you are given with such a data, like once you are given with a new issue of this magazine, what we are expected is to estimate the parameters of both these distributions. That is, you are supposed to find out not only the distribution of x's, but uh, we would like to identify the z distribution also. So that is what the estimation of parameters in case of latent variable models. And this actually enables us to do soft clustering as well. For example, you just calculate this in the opposite way, that is, what is the probability that you have chosen z equal to 1 for a particular x for a particular article. What is the probability that probability of z equal to 1 for x, probability of z equal to 2 given x, etc. Given an article, what is the probability that it belongs to the first category, it belongs to the second category, etc. So it forms a natural way to do clustering. So, for example, this comes to point 0.8 and this comes to point 0.2, then it means that x is supposed to be in the this category, politics category. So just by applying it in the reverse way, that is by applying Bayes rule, you can do soft clustering as well. We'll talk about it later. Soft clustering. Okay, so latent variable models. The observed random variable x or the visible random variable x, as I've told, it depends upon a hidden random variable z. This is the selected article and this is the topic. So the selected article is depends upon the topic, or this distribution is controlled by the distribution of z. Z is actually generated from a distribution P of Z, that is a prior distribution. So it has a distribution, that's what we have seen previously. This is the Z distribution of Z. This is having highest value, then this is having the next highest value, and so on. X is generated in such a way that P of X given Z. So that's what we have seen here. P of X given Z equal to 1, P of X given Z equal to 2, and that's how we generate the visible variable, or the observed random variable. So that's an essence of latent variable models. We will see some of the properties also. Before going into the properties, let me yeah, different combinations of P of Z and P of X given Z. This is P of Z or the Z distribution, and this is the X distribution, or distribution of the visible and distribution of the hidden variable. Different combinations of these two gives you different latent variable models. For example, if P of Z is we are going to talk about mixture models. Uh, P of Z is categorical, means that if P of Z can take 1 out of k values, for example, P of Z can take 1, 2, etc. up to k values, and P of X given Z can take P of X given Z can take values like any probability distribution, like maybe Gaussian distribution or a Bernoulli distribution. Then this sort of model is called a mixture model. P of Z, if P of Z can take categorical values like this, 1, 2, etc. Okay, then that is a mixture model. We call it mixture of Gaussians. If this is a Gaussian and this is 1 to k, it is something like you have k Gaussian or k normal distribution, a combination of k normal distribution. If P of Z can take any value of any integer value, then we call it factor analysis. And a particular special case of factor analysis is called principal component analysis. and this is something we'll be talking about later in our class. Latent Dirichlet allocation. If P of Z, this distribution is Dirichlet distribution, then we say that this is LDA, latent Dirichlet allocation. So today we'll look at mixture models. Latent variable models, as we have told, another approach compared to latent variable models is usually high dimensional joint probability distributions are uh, represented by using graphical models in such a way that the dependence between two variables is modeled by adding an edge between them. It's represented as a graph. So a graph represents a conditional independence. Even if we say that the dependence, a graph actually represents conditional independence. We will be talking about graphical models in third module. So this is an alternative approach to graphical model. We can use latent variable models. So this will be clear when we talk about graphical models. So here we assume that some of the variables are correlated because they are coming from a particular common cause or a common hidden variable. They are coming through a common hidden variable. So a common, it can be viewed as what you know as a common hidden node. So in graphical model also we can see that there will be a edge between this particular node and all the other correlated nodes. So models with this type of hidden variables are known as latent variable models. Such models are difficult to fit than that of not having latent variables. Just we have seen an example, the magazine example. Without that latent variable, the magazine would have not followed the distribution of topics. We could have got some the same number of articles, but it may not be following your pattern of what you call that magazine. For example, if we give higher priority or higher value to sports, means that your magazine is a sports magazine. But if you are not using the latent variable model, then you may not be getting enough number of sports articles in your particular issue. So latent variable model have significant advantages. Two advantages are latent variable models have fewer number of parameters than models that directly represent correlations. For example, in this case, if we have three nodes here and three nodes here, and in between we have a hidden variable, then we can represent it with 17 parameters. But if this is a situation like we represent the correlations by connections with all the value, all the edges, then we can say that it requires some large number of parameters. Or latent variable models have fewer number of parameters, and that is one advantage because we are normally utilizing this graphical model or latent variable models with very high dimensional data, means that very large number of parameters. Another advantage is that latent variable model can serve as a bottleneck, which says that which can be used as a compressed representation of the data. So in this case, these data can be represented as a compressed form here. That is what we mean by a compressed representation. So it can be a one-to-one or one-to-many, many-to-many mapping and all. Whatever another, it's a latent variable model has an advantage, means that the connection between two or some number of nodes are through a particular hidden variable, so that hidden variable bottleneck can be used as a compressed representation. So as we have seen, latent variable models, a simple latent variable model is a mixture model where our Z distribution, as I've told, the Z distribution is categorical, means that it can take any value from 1 to k. And P of Z is a multinomial distribution. You represent it as a pi. P of P of Z is a multinomial distribution. Multinomial in the sense it is something like multi, or you may be knowing binomial. So same like multinomial. So it will be having a pi 1 which represents the uh, probability of Z equal to 1. Then probability of Z equal to 2 is phi 2. Probability of Z equal to k is pi k. So for every k, every state k, we have a probability distribution. So correspondingly, we can take the probability of x also. Probability of x given Z equal to k. For every state k, we can find this probability. So you have a visible variable x. What is the probability of that visible variable given Z equal to 1, given Z equal to 2, and so on. So that is what the probability distribution for x. The total probability can be calculated like this. Probability of x given theta is the summation over 1 to k pi k pkx given theta. Pkx is the short form of this. In literature, you will see this representation only. Pkx means probability of x given z equal to k. Theta is our parameters. So x given, probability of x is the sum over all the probabilities. This is the probability of a particular k, particular state k. This is probability of that particular state k, or probability of x given z equal to k comma theta. It's something like probability of x given z equal to k comma theta into pi k multiplied by, if z equal to 1, pi 1. So it is something like pi will act like a weightage factor. So pi 1 into probability of x given z equal to 1, pi 2 plus pi 2 into x given z equal to 2. So summation over all these things together, you will get probability of x given theta. What is the probability of x given theta? So that the k can be avoided, because we have considered all the k values. So it's a convex combination of all pk's. So pi k is the probability of the kth mixture component to be true, or the contribution of the kth component. So pi k means, or pi 1, pi 2, etc. Pi 1 is the first component's contribution, pi 2 is the second component's contribution, and so on. So this can be treated as something like an expert. Here there is one expert, here there is a second expert. What is the contribution of the first expert, second expert, etc. So sometimes we call it a mixture of experts also, or mixing of weights. This can be calculated as a weightage factor. So we call it a mixing weight. So pi 1, this summation should be equal to 1, pi 1 plus pi 2 plus etc. Pi k should be 1. So it will be zero point 0.1 into this probability x equal to, sorry, z equal to 1. Then pi 2, if pi 2 is zero point 0.2, then zero point 0.2 into and so on. So there is a sum, that summation gives you the overall probability for x. So the mixture of Gaussians is the most widely used mixture model is this mixture of Gaussians is also called GMM, Gaussian mixture model. Here we have some k number of Gaussian multivariate Gaussians with mean is equal to mu k and covariance matrix sigma k. So it is a mixture of normal distribution. For example, in this case, we have three Gaussian uh, mixture of three Gaussians. So it will be the same thing. Probability of x given theta is, in the previous slide you have seen the probability of x given theta is the summation over 1 to k pi k into then this probability. This probability here is the normal distribution. Normal distribution with mu and sigma. It's a multivariate Gaussian, so it is mu k and sigma k. So this is a simple example for mixture model. We have three Gaussians in this case, and this is another surface plot taken in some software maybe. A mixture of multi-knowledge. I think you know about Bernoulli distribution. So suppose our data consists of some d-dimensional bit vectors, then an appropriate class conditional density is a product of Bernoulli's. So it is d-dimensional bit vectors are our data, then each bit is going to represent a Bernoulli distribution with uh, this what is the probability that mu jk is the probability that bit j turns on in a cluster k. So a Bernoulli distribution means you can it's a product of these many Bernoulli distribution. D-dimensional bit vectors means you need to generate D bits. So it's a product. So it will be like this. This is the Bernoulli distributions PDF. Mu j into 1 minus mu j. Mu j raised to x into 1 minus mu j raised to 1 minus x. So the same thing, probability of xi given theta is the summation over this into Gaussian PDF. Here it is the product over all bit vectors into this is a product of Bernoulli distributions, or we can say it is a multiple Bernoulli distributions. So we call it mixture of multinode. Mean and covariance of this mixture distribution is given by this. Mean is expectation of x is equal to pi k into mu k, where pi k is the corresponding clusters probability. So pi 1, pi 2, etc. Just we have seen here this case pi 1, pi 2. Yeah. Pi 1 will be having a probability, pi 2 will be having another probability, and so on. So pi 1 into mu k. And this is the covariance. Once again, pi k into this minus expectation of x and expectation of x transform, mean and covariance of this mixture distribution. So this is about a single value probability of xi given zi equal to k means you will get one d-dimensional bit vector that itself is a product of Bernoulli's. So it is a multinodal distribution. Now we consider it as a some k number of multinodal distributions. So it is a mixture of multinodes. Another famous model is a mixture of experts. A mixture model can also be used to create discriminative model for classification or regression. For example, consider these three regression lines 1, 2, and 3. You can see that these are three lines or three uh, regression lines which are in three different spaces. So this can be easily modeled by using mixing of weights. Uh, Mixing of weights just we have seen previously. So the mixing can be done like each each of the regression line can be treated as a as a weightage or applying a weightage onto this. You can say that this into the probability of this will be on some one space. This particular weightage into these values will be on some space so that these three can be separated very easily. So that's a top of that type of a model we call it mixture of experts. The idea is that each submodel is considered to be an expert in a certain region, and by applying that gating function onto that, then on the input value, if you apply that gating function, then it will decide which expert is going to perform better. Next, we'll see how this mixture model can be utilized. As we have just seen, the mixture model can be used as a black box density model or for finding out the probability of x given theta. As just now we have seen, like probability of x given theta as a summation over this. So it's one way or a direct usage of it, the class conditional density of a particular model that can be uh, found by using mixture models. For finding this class conditional density, mixture model can be used. A second and one of the most used usage, most one of the best usage is for clustering. We call it soft clustering. This is not hard clustering because here we are calculating the probability, so that's why we call it soft clustering. So we have a, let's say we have a mixture model, then we try to learn the parameters of the mixture model. What are the parameters? Parameters in the sense we have theta and then z. X is your input. Sorry, X is your visible data, and from X you should be able to identify your Z and theta. Once you are able to compute Z and theta, then you apply, once you have learned the parameters like the theta and Z, then you should be able to apply Bayes rule on this. You compute this by applying Bayes rule like this, so that P of Z equal to K given theta. This is your prior probability, and what is the probability that X given Z equal to K? This is visible to you, so that also can be calculated. Then the summation over the entire entry, k equal to 1 to k. Then you can say what is the probability that z equal to 1, what is the probability that z equal to 2, what is the probability that z equal to 3, etc. Let's say k equal to 1 to 3. Then what is the probability that z equal to 1 given x, z equal to 2 given x, z equal to 3 given x, and that itself is known as clustering. If we say that z equal to 1 is a probability equal to some 0.1, z equal to 2 a probability equal to 0.2, and 3 is 0.7, then we can somehow say that this particular value x belongs to the third cluster. So, soft clustering is a simple procedure in which we just try to learn the parameters of the mixture model. Parameters in the sense the value x is visible to us, or this probability distribution, probability of x given z equal to k, that value is visible to us. Then we need to identify z. Once we identify z, we can calculate the prior distribution, so probability of z equal to k also. And of course, we need to estimate theta, the parameter theta. And after that, you apply Bayes rule and find this probability of z equal, that is just opposite what we have seen in the previous case. The previous case we have been doing it in the generative way. Here the opposite. So it is probability of z equal to 1 given x, probability of z equal to 2 given x, 3 given x, and that is the natural way we do clustering. I think the idea is clear. So that's how we, that are the two different usages of mixture models. Now let's see simple parameter estimation, how we do parameter estimation. Let's say you have a set of scalar observations x1, x2, x3, etc., xn, and we know that our task is to find the generative model, in what is the form of the model and what are the parameters. Let's what is given to you is x1, x2, x3, etc., xn. Just opposite to the thing which we have seen here. That is, here what we have done is we are given with the parameters. Mu is given, sigma is given. Then we have generated this data. With this 1000 data points, we have generated this. Now you are asked to find the opposite of this, means that you are given with this, this data is given to you, and you would like to identify with what is the form. This is a normal distribution, something like that, and what is, if it is normal distribution, what is mu and sigma. So observe the empirical. The way we do it is observe the empirical distribution of x. We can somehow you deduce the distribution of x and make the choice of the form of probability distribution, and that's the only way. And usually if the distribution is not known, we first try with Gaussian distribution. Then we can estimate the parameters by using MLE or MAP, maximum likelihood or maximum a priori. Using that, you can estimate your parameter. The parameters, in the sense, in the case of Gaussian distribution, the parameters are mu and sigma. When the data has multiple modes, then this sort of single mode is not sufficient, isn't it? Single mode in the sense like we have assumed that all our data is coming from a single point or using a single mu and sigma. What about if the reality in reality the data is generated from two Gaussians or it's a mixture of two Gaussians? It's a GMM. It's a Gaussian mixture model. In that case, we would like to identify, we would like to estimate what do you mean by that mu1 sigma 1 and mu2 sigma 2. Not only mu1 sigma 1, mu2 sigma 2, we would like to identify this is just theta. So far, we have been telling the parameters theta, and we would like to identify the z distribution also, theta and z. Z in the sense pi 1 and in this case we have only two distribution, two Gaussians, so pi 1 and pi 2. Of course, pi 1 plus pi 2 should be 1, so only pi 1 also will be enough. Pi 2 should be 1 minus pi 1, right? Let's go back to this notebook and see some more. Yeah, let's see an example of mixture model. So we are once again generating, this is just opposite to what I have been telling right now. This is a generative process again. Means that you have two mu's and two sigmas. Mu1 sigma 1, this is your mu1 and sigma 1, and this is your mu2 and sigma 2. And you have pi. Pi represents your our z distribution. As I have told, we require only pi 1. Pi 2 is 1 minus pi 1. So pi 1 is 0.5, so pi 2 is also 0.5. So you divide the entire 1000 data samples to 500 data samples to this and 500 data samples from mu2 and sigma 2, and that is the meaning of this 0.5. Then you create a list double. Then first you sample from a Bernoulli distribution with size is equal to 1, sorry, pi, with distribution, this distribution pi, and based on that value, so you will get value equal to pi 1 or pi 2, 1 or 2. If the value of s is equal to 1, then you sample from mu1 and sigma 2, sigma 1. You sample from the first normal distribution, first Gaussian. Otherwise, you sample from the second Gaussian. And you append your data with this list and you plot the histogram. You can clearly see that you have it's a mixture of two Gaussians. This is your first Gaussian and this will be your second Gaussian. So it's because you have taken it 0.5. Let's see this. Let's change this 0.2. So pi 1, 0.2, 0.1 and 0.2. So they see this is as small set now, and this is the large set. So pi 1 is 0.2 and pi 2 is 0.8. And by changing appropriately mu1 and sigma 1, you can get in two values. Now the values are mixed up. Let's see. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is here also we have generated 1000 samples with from two separate Gaussian distributions. First Gaussian distribution has mu1 and sigma 1 as parameters. Second Gaussian distribution has mu2 and sigma 2, and we have another hidden variable z which controls the what you know as which controls the visible random variable. Our visible random variable is this data. This data is being controlled by using a Bernoulli distribution based on this pi. So pi corresponds to our z distribution. So z equal to 1 we represent it as pi 1, z equal to 2 we represent it as pi 2. So our idea is to estimate mu1 and sigma 1, mu2 and sigma 2, comma this pi also. Right now what we have seen was the opposite or the generative way, generative process. We know pi and theta, mu 1 sigma 1 and mu 2 sigma 2. We were able to generate the data. Now, what about if we have this data and we would like to do it the opposite way? That is, we would like to generate it. Let's say just opposite case. We will see that opposite to that. Yeah, generate the data here. For example, number of data points is n equal to 1000. Then you randomly generate some data, a random normal distribution and a random normal distribution, and concatenate both this data, plot it. Now you give this data back, but here also we know this. So let's go back to the slide and see. Okay. What about if we know so this is our data now. We have this data. Sorry. We have this data now like this, and we have one more distribution like this. So we know that there are two bell curves, nice bell curves like this. We would like to identify the first bell curves mu 1 and sigma 1, mu 1, mu 1, and then sigma 1, mu 2 and sigma 2. These two we would like to identify. What if we knew Zi? Let's assume that we know Z. Then once again the issue is being solved because Zi equal to 1 means Xi comes from the first component, Zi equal to 2 means Xi comes from the second mixture component. So you like our previous example, you do two MLEs, for one for the first mixture component and one for the second mixture component. Then you should be able to identify mu 1 sigma 1 and mu 2 sigma 2. If we know that Zi equal to corresponding to each of the Xi, what is Zi if we know that? But we know that it is not known, it is hidden. The issue is that Zi are not known before. Then another possibility is to try all the possible values for Zi. For if we know if Z can take some values, then to explore all the possibilities, but that's also computationally not very effective. The second method is to direct optimization. So as we have seen, in the case of simple parameter estimation, maximum likelihood estimate, this MLE, the same process if we apply, we are looking towards the sample and we try to do optimization of the likelihood to this, what will happen? That's what we are going to do. We'll go back to the see here. So you have this data. Single is our first data. This data, 1000 data points. We have 1000 data points, and all comes from this mu and sigma. Yeah. Now you apply mu comma sigma equal to norm dot fit single. You try to fit a normal distribution. You have assumed that this belongs to Gaussian, and you just try to fit a Gaussian distribution and print mu and sigma. You will get it like this. This is your mu and this is your sigma. So it's almost clear that you have started from 0.0 and 0.8, but there is a slight difference. That's it. You have started with mu equal to 0 and sigma equal to 0.08. So you are able to get same value 0.0 and 0.08. So you are able to fit uh, if we know the number of what you call mixtures. In this mixture, we know that we have only one uh, Gaussian, so we are able to fit a normal distribution onto it. What about if we try to fit Gaussian onto the second data? Double. Double is actually a mixture of two components, one and the second one is this. What about if we try to fit a one mu and sigma onto it? Mu and sigma, that is the same sentence, same command we apply here also. Mu sigma equal to, still we'll be able to fit a value. We'll be able to get a value. We'll be able to get mu and sigma. But you can see that your mu is getting somewhere here and there. You have almost nil data, and you are pretty much sure that the result what you have got is wrong, because you have got mu in a place where you don't have data at all. You have a very less amount of data. So still you can fit data like this, nothing will stop you, but this is possible if we know that the first data point which is coming from which z, for example x1 and z, x1 from which z, x2 from which z, and so on. If you know that, we could fit it by using two, we could be able to identify mu1 and sigma1 from one set of data, mu2 and sigma2 from the other set of data, so that you will get. But the difficulty is that we may not, we don't know the z value, so we are not in a position to fit the data. So direct optimization will be sending you to some, that's what I am trying to say. Direct optimization, we can find parameters that maximize your log likelihood or log posterior. So you are trying to find out parameters that maximizes your log likelihood. Once again, if it is easy if you are if you know that z i's. What if when z i's are not known, then you will end up with a non-convex function, and a non-convex function is very hard to optimize because you will have multiple, what you know as multiple valleys in the curve. So you may end up in instead of getting the minimum value, you may end up in local minimum. So local, there will be multiple minimum values, and instead of reaching a global minimum, you will end up in a local minimum. That's what it will happen in the case of if you try to optimize it directly. Mathematically, estimating a parameters of a mixture model. Before getting into this, let's try it in a by using some of the direct optimization methods. Let's say we have this data. We have 1,000 data points. A is equal to this, and mu1 is 0, mu2 is 0.08, sigma 1 is this, and mu2 is 0.6, sigma 2 is this. We have created this much data, and we supply this to uh, this is your minimization, first minimization by using BFGS. There are different minimization methods. You can search for minimization methods, minimize Python, scipy.minimize, optimization methods. These are the different methods which are possible. Type of the solver, Neldermeer, Powell, CG, BFGS, etc. Then Newton CG. So the BFGS, Neldermeer, and Powell and all are commonly used methods. See this, you call BFGS on this data with some initial theta. Some initial theta value need to be applied, and in that this is your mu1, sigma 1, mu 2, sigma 2, and this is your pi value. So see that BFGS was not able to give you a result, desired error not necessarily achieved. Then you tried Powell. Powell also could not give you a result. Nelder sometimes give you a result. Yeah, optimization terminated successfully, but the result was 0.0, 0.8. Yeah, it is somewhat closer. 0.8, 0.59, 0.12. I think this is almost close. 0.08, 0.6, 0.12. Yeah, this was able to give a better result, Nelder-Mead optimization. But this is because your data is very small and it has only two what you call two mixtures or mixture of two Gaussians. What about if it has some hundreds of Gaussian distributions, mixture of hundreds of Gaussians, and this also it gave you a better result than it A equal to point, yeah, 0.29, it gave you point 0 point, and BFGSB it converged, but the result was wrong, but the result was wrong. Yeah, whatever. What I'm trying to say is, for direct optimization, we try to find the parameters by maximizing the log likelihood or log posterior. But it's very hard to optimize because of the non-convex form of the function. Mathematically, we can say that the optimization we can think it of, we would like to find out a theta which maximizes the log likelihood of, or the entire expression, log likelihood of theta. The uh, maximize the log likelihood, that theta we would like to identify. That is what we are trying to find. That is the parameter we would like to identify. The probability of overall probability, we have seen it previously. Overall probability is probability of xi given theta is pk. Pk is probability of xi given zi equal to k comma theta, the summation. Likelihood is the sum product of all the 1 to n values. Let's say you have some n samples, xi is from 1 to n, and we have k clusters or k zis, k equal to 1 to k. Then likelihood of theta is the product over all these probabilities. Overall probability of xi is this, and product over all this means you will get the likelihood. The log likelihood is you take the logarithm of that. So this product will go and this will become summation. So I summation over I equal to 1 to n log, then this summation probability of zk into pk. Sorry, here I missed zk. I think probability of zk, which is the prior, and this is the posterior. So summation over 1 to k probability of zk into probability of xi given zk. This is really tough because a summation inside log optimization of that will be very hard. It's not it's solvable but very hard, and it's not only because mathematically this is very hard. uh, it's hard to optimize because it is inside summation inside a log term. It's not only because of that, it's because of this, the non-convex form of your function, it's becoming hard to solve. So next time we will see a method to optimize or estimate the parameters of the next mixture model by using an algorithm, namely expectation maximization. So that's all for today. Thank you.